Okay, welcome back. Now I'm starting looking at the neck. Firstly, I've got these lovely chunks of Carina mahogany. So lucky to find them. It took me a long time to find them because they come, well, if you can get them, they're normally only 2 inches wide, so that gives you a bit of a problem, because you're then forced to make a two-piece neck, which original Flying V's didn't have, and I didn't want to do that. So luckily I managed to get some neck blanks which were 61 millimeters wide, just a little over, well, a fair amount over 2 inches. So the one thing, like on here now, is I can get the full depth of the headstock in here, sort of thing, without having to sort of scarf a headstock in, which would just be awful. But more importantly, with the Flying V, here's the head width here, and obviously we can't do that, but the original Flying V has two cheeks glued on the edge, and this is the actual neck. This would be the neck shaft, and that sits on there, and you can see that, right, this is the width of the cheeks that are added on. But this piece of wood here, the width of these headstock cheeks, 57 millimeters now, which is it's kind of a bit of a weird size, because the thing is, let me get a fretboard from a Les Paul. Right, this is a vintage fretboard for a Les Paul with vintage space frets and everything. So this is what would basically have been on this guitar. Now the thing is, you can see that here, the template is wider than the end of the fretboard, which you'd kind of expect, but where the neck joint happens on this guitar, at the 20th and a half fret, so that's where it joins the body there. So if you have the template, the body joint, the neck joint is actually that's basically the top plan. Now that's also marked on these excellent templates, 20.5. That's obviously the body joint mark there. So if you take the width of the fretboard at the 20.5 fret, you're looking at 55 millimeters, or 56 millimeters really, which the problem that gives you then is if you've got a 2-inch bit of wood, you can't do this width here, which is 57. So that bit of wood, it all makes sense really, because that width there is the same. So they've obviously, the neck blanks Gibson have used to make 58 Flying V's is based on that 20 and a half width there for the fret, the fretboard width. That's where they've based it. Okay, we need a blank that wide, and then from then on you've got the cutout for the mortise, like the mortise cut off. So that's basically that's basically, well, where are we? Somewhere in there. That's basically what you're after there. So like I say, we've got a 20.5, oh, it's that one there, 20 and a half fret neck join there. So this all makes sense because this is exactly within sanding distance of that width. So that's what you're looking at, and that's why these cheeks start out here, and this bit of wood is just a fraction. You know, the width we've got is 57, and then I've got a piece here which is 60. So I'm well chuffed with getting that. So this is basically our plan on here now, and then add the cheeks on, sort of thing. So the one thing I noticed with the Flying V as opposed to the Les Paul is that when you look inside the front pickup cavity, there's no filler strip where you'd see the truss rod groove being the truss rod channel being plugged up with a bit of maple. And my guessing is, I mean, on the Les Paul, I can't remember where the neck joint, you know, the neck tenon is, it's much further in, sort of thing, so the neck blank is much shorter, and I suppose they may have done that based on this. But so the first thing you want to do while this bit of wood is nice and square, and I'll check that it is, it's absolutely square, so I'm not gonna mess with that. What I'm gonna do now is plan out the neck on here, and then I mean, basically we're doing this. This is just perfect. You know, I'm gonna plane one edge of this nice and smooth, that it's the you know, the fretboard surface, so we may as well get that flat. I don't want a sawn edge there, but once I've done that, then we can start planning out the truss rod channel. Okay, I planed this edge nice and smooth now, and it's absolutely flat, and then I've drawn the profile of the neck on the side. So the first thing, there's kind of just a nice way of going around doing a neck, really. The first thing you want to do really is cut this wedge off for the headstock, and you know, that sets you up then to start doing the truss rod slot sort of thing, saves you slotting out all that waste there. So I'll get that done now. I mean, it's half a dozen of one, 6 of the other, really, but you know, that's the way I do it, and you know, it's a nice way of doing it. So I've stuck my wide blade back in here, and then we'll get cutting that off now. Okay, so we've got that cut off now, and what I'll do is I'm going to plane that flat on my planer over here, and we'll just get that all done. We're all good with that now. You can see there's it does chip out a little bit here, sort of thing. So I'd rather finish it off by hand. so avoid that, but that's all good. So we can get on now and start setting up to do the truss rod slot. Okay, I've set up my router table now to do the truss rod channel. Now, as I was saying, in the neck, basically in the vintage Les Paul necks, the truss rod is a straight channel. It's not curved at all. So here's the rough thing. You've got the outline of the neck here in profile, and we've got the line of the bottom of the truss rod channel down here. Now at this end it's 15.88 millimeters, and at this end it's 12.73, so as near as damn it there's a 3 millimeter slope in the truss rod depth. And so what I've done is, you know, planed this surface ready for the fretboard, got that headstock angle dialed in. So what I've done is I've glued a 3 millimeter thickness plywood on there. Now if I run this across my router table, that means that with that plywood we're looking at basically, like, you know, we've got this piece of wood at a 3 millimeter slope, which is exactly what we want. You know, that's so that's that. I've also set up these two channels here that I can run the piece of wood in, the neck blank in, to cut the I'm wondering why it's rocking a bit. I'll have to check that. Must be something, probably just that bit flappy. I've got this piece of wood in, this piece of shitty plywood in here, basically because there's a large hole around the cutter here, and this would fall into it, which wouldn't be very good. You'd end up with a chunk in the channel there, sort of thing. So yeah, if I push down it's fine. And also you may say, well, you only need one straight edge on here, and then, you know, you don't need this, but I prefer it locked in place, because the cutter, depending upon which way you're cutting, and I know if I'm doing a left to right cut, which I want to be doing, it's going the other way in the camera because it's reversed, but the cutter tends to push the work away from the fence. So I mean, okay, I could have put the fence around that side, but if I've got two fences holding it in place, I'm not going to get a wobbly cut. The thing I've done is I've done a test cut with my same piece that came off the neck blank, so it's the same width, to make sure that I'm cutting in the middle. So what I'll do is I'll just start with this now. Oh, what is holding this up? Irritating. I'm going to have to investigate that and wonder what's happening here. Something's funny. There must be junk underneath this. Let me just investigate that. I don't like that at all. Right, there we go, found it, bit of junk underneath. So this is nice and sturdy now. So let's just do a little cut. So right, we've just done a little cut, barely touching the neck there. So let's just make sure that's in the middle. Okay. $27.8. .1 of a millimetre out, which I don't think we're going to be bothered about that. So right, let's jack up the cutter a bit. I'm actually using a spiral cutter, and I really like them. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to stop at the end of the truss rod channel, not continue on right through. So I've marked on here, and I'm also going to mark where the cutter is because I won't be able to see it. So that's where my cutter is. All right, first pass. So there we go, there's our first pass now. So we'll keep going down till we get to the right thickness, right depth. Well, I'll bring you back when I've done it. It's just going to be a slow boat to China, this sort of thing, but you can see exactly what I'm doing. I just don't want mess in the bottom of this when I'm cutting, so I'm stopping at each one. So I'll get back to you. Okay, well, I've finished this neck channel now. What I had to do at this end, I had to add about 1 millimetre more. I added 2 little sheets of of veneer on it, just because I wasn't getting the slope that I wanted. I was about 1 millimetre short on this end. So now if I measure this, and we zero there now, it should be 12.77 millimetres. Oh, a bit of gas there. Not down, I think. Right, with 12.84 millimetres, I think I can live with that. And this should be 15.88 or something. And with 15.98, so we're about 0.1 of a millimetre too deep across the lot, but I think you can forgive me that. So we've got very accurate depth slot in there now, and now the truss rod will fit in. Well, I've got a spare bit of steel up here without the, so the truss rod fits nicely in there now, and we're all good with that. A bit tight actually, but you know, I can easily relax that a little bit. I'll run it through again. It's beautiful actually. So yeah, we're all good with that. Now what I'm going to do is get the other neck blank and get up to speed with that. So we're all good. One thing I should mention is this router bit is actually a, you know, some people will just whack a 1/4 inch one through, but this is 3/16, which is the right measurement for it. The original channel was 3/16, and you can see this will give us a start as well to do the D cut out for the nut and everything. So we're all good. One thing I did notice, you may have caught, when I was planing this, I wasn't entirely happy with it. There seemed to be a bit of a slope on it, and you could see that where I'd drawn the nut line across, and then when I'd cut and planed this, there was sort of a triangular landing, if you like, where the top nut would be. when I checked over, my planer fence wasn't exactly flat, so now you can see that I've corrected that and we dead on there, so that's perfect. So now we'll get the other blank and get that up to speed. So the first thing to do now is mark where your top nut is going. Now the thing is here, what you've got to do is the end of the slope of your headstock, you need to leave the width of the top nut and then draw a line across, and that's the starting point of your fretboard. So I mean, I drew a rough line there yesterday to get going. On this neck blank, by the time I finished getting this perfectly square, you know, like that way, perfectly square that way, and I'd run it through the planer a few times, and this top apex kind of crept up a little bit by a couple of mils. So I'll put the end, put the nut thing and line across there, and also leave enough room for the nut to be glued on, obviously. So that's the first thing I'm going to do, is I'm going to sand those original marks off that were a rough guide just to get going, and then I'm going to draw a new nut line on there, and then we can start measuring everything from there. Well, here we are. This is what I've done now. I've marked the nut, sort of the nut position there, the front and back of the nut, and you can see that that is indicated here as well between the apex of this angle and the fretboard plane and the nut position there. Now the typical, you can check this on the burst Les Pauls, 3/16 of an inch, 4.76 millimeters, which is exactly the same on this. So obviously they use the same nut on this guitar, so I've marked the 3/16 channel for the, not channel but line for the nut to go in there. Now I can line up the side profile of the neck on here and line it up with and we're, you know, we good to cut out on the, basically on the line we drew previously. And I just noticed actually that, pretty lucky, because I can get another neck out of this and the other one. So although I only bought wood for two necks, I can for two necks, 2 blocks, I can get 4 out of it. So that's great if I want to build another couple of V's. So I think we can actually cut this out now, and worth checking as well, like here's the body where we are now. Just do some visual checks, you know, if you put this in there, you can see that you're not doing anything stupid, because this neck joint is the right height there, the right length. There's a gap at the back of the neck pocket here, so we're dead right here anyway, so that's all good. So what I'm going to do is just draw this round this with a darker pencil. But it is exactly where we traced it before to do the rough guide for the truss rod. Be careful when you draw round the end, because being so thin, these are a bit flexible, so don't get silly with it. So yeah, what I think I'm going to do now is cut this neck out. Yep, and be careful when you cut the neck out. You know, we said we can get two necks out of this, so don't go slicing into there or something. You know, try and keep the piece intact, that you can use as much again. So I'll take you over to the bandsaw in a minute. Okay, here's the very rough neck blank chopped out. Now it's lovely light wood this. One thing you saw me try and I wanted to keep the cut. I didn't want to try and go round corners with this blade ideally, and when I went round that corner I stopped here and I tried to cut it from the other end, but I couldn't pull the blade out, so I had to in the end, so that's why I was going a bit back and forth. So right, we've got that one cut out. I'll do the next one without the video on, and we've got, delightfully, more wood. So that goes on the special pile. Right, okay, I'll switch you off and we'll rock and roll with the other one. Hi, so this is a pretty critical part now. I've got the neck tenon template double-sided stuck down on here, and I'm almost tempted to screw it as well, but I mean I've covered it with tape and covered the neck with tape and done the old super glue trick with it, sort of thing, so I think I'm sure it will be all right, but this has got to be in the perfect place. I've allowed myself a bit of room here on the length, only about the 1/16 of an inch, something like that, and I've made sure that it's absolutely central on the neck. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to roughly bandsaw out these areas, and then I'm going to use my bearing guided router cutter to cut these out. So yeah, I'll get on with that, and I'll show you the routing, but the bandsawing is just whizzing up there and through there, so jobbed. Right, okay, I'm going to route the neck tenon now. I've actually filed down the template a bit because it was a very, well, you couldn't fit it into the, let me show you. The template wouldn't fit in the body route. Now, I'm sure they did that because, you know, to give you a little bit of play, to, you know, get a nice, you know, to fettle the fit yourself. But I've actually filed it now. I mean, there's no wiggle on that at all. I've filed that tight so it will leave us a finished joint. I don't like hand fettling a joint like this, you know, because you're not going to be as accurate as a router can do it, and I just prefer to try and mill it to a fit as it is, sort of thing. So I'm sure it will probably still be a little bit tight, but anyway, so I've got my bearing guided router with a bottom bearing on it. Now this face is the only reference face we've got, so you know, this face is a sawn face and we don't know how accurate it is, you know, whether it's got a slope on it or anything, so everything's got to be square to this face. So it's going to be face down on here, and I'm just going to cut these edges of these tenons now, so let's do that. Okay, now so we've got the edges of the tenons cut and perfectly square to the top. Obviously we've got radiuses where these are that we'll have to finish off by hand, and remember that this edge on the neck is not going to be vertical, it's going to be tipped back, exaggerated that way for the slope of the neck. So this is where the, if you like, the shortest bit of the tenon is and the longest down there, so we've got a slope on here. So hopefully that will be a good fit now, and we'll get on and do the rest of the other neck. Okay, right, no bullshit, this is live, I've not tried it. Let's try the neck joint for a push fit. What do you reckon the chances are? Comments below. Right, first time. Oh. Too tight, but within yeah, that's not going to come out, but yeah, so I think we're good. And the other thing that I'm going to try now that's vital, and if it's wrong I'll be really pissed, is the centre line of the neck. Too much junk here, and so we want to be right up the truss rod channel. So I'll line it up on the body here. Let's have a look. That's in line there at the back. Where's the line? Somewhere there. I think that's it. Look at that. Just look at that. Absolutely friggin' perfect on the centre line. Could not get better than that. That is, as John Virgo would say on the snooker, that's inch perfect, that. Yeah, but we're probably like, absolutely spot on. So that's good. Let's try the other neck. Oh. This one just drops in. No. Exactly the same. Oh. It's a tight fit, like I say, but let's do this one now. There's the joint there. That looks about right. Look at that. Look at that. Yes. Even though I say so myself, thumbs up on that one. Well, to be honest, you can't really go wrong, can you, if you're like, you know, you follow the rules. But look, got something that looks a bit like the formation of a Gibson Flying V with a really tight neck. I mean, you don't want the neck joints that thick at all. That thick. You don't want the neck joints that tight. You know, you've got to have room for glue in there. But, you know, we're good. We've obviously got these curves to finish off by hand and things, but the basics are there now. I'm going to go in and have a celebratory packet of crisps and a cup of coffee. But yeah, look at that. This is so satisfying, you know. If you do want to build a guitar sometime in your life, I'll guarantee you'll get a lot of satisfaction from doing it. And like, this is as light as a feather as well. It really is cool. I just love Flying V's. I had a 1970s Flying V for a short while before someone twisted my arm to buy it, and that along with a vintage SG Junior, or you know, the Les Paul Junior thing. I regretted selling both of them. I loved them, but this is gonna take place of a lot of that. I'm just stoked the way it's coming out. So let's go in, have a cup of tea, and come back out and rock and roll a bit more.